We're joined by the ABC News 24's political editor Lyndall Curtis, the ABC's chief online political writer Annabel Crabb, and Bruce Hawker, who's a Labor strategist and Kevin Rudd supporter, is in Brisbane. Annabel, just very quickly, your thoughts on Kevin Rudd's comments from earlier this morning?
Well, I think he's certainly making a very strong pitch to the electorate as well as to his caucus colleagues, but he still, of course, hasn't confirmed that he's running. He's kind of commissioned a white paper on the issue. He's going to consult widely and get back to us when he gets back to Australia. I think that he has been very swift to position himself as the politeness candidate. He has talked about the attacks that he's undergone in the last couple of days and talked about the importance of civility in public life. I mean, I suspect that those remarks will have a twofold effect depending on who you are listening to them. I think it'll make some of his caucus colleagues absolutely enraged, and the people who are planning to vote against him will vote against him with a particular joy on Monday on account of them. But I think plenty of people watching, and Kevin Rudd, I think, always has an ear to the, according to the polls, substantial majority of Australian voters who would like to see him return to the leadership, will think, yeah, you know, I wouldn't mind if Australian politics was a bit more polite and a bit less sort of slaggy as well.
And how difficult is it going to be for him to shore up the support that he needs, given that he'll be on a plane for the best part of 24 hours?
Pretty difficult. I think he's got a lot of difficulties to face. I suspect that his reticence to commit to entering or being a candidate in the leadership ballot would be directly related to his concerns about whether he could get enough numbers together by Monday. I think there's always an opportunity that there'll be a spill called on Monday and he won't put up his hand. I think traditionally he's been involved in quite a few leadership challenges and situations now going all the way back to 2003, when I remember in mid-2003 when Simon Crean's leadership was in trouble. There was a very titillating couple of days when Kevin Rudd was wondering whether to be a candidate, and there were again a series of press conferences that he would stage and definitely confirm that he would be giving another press conference sometime in the near future. I mean, he's pretty cautious about these things, I think, as a general rule. A bit sad that we've got so many examples to look back at to assess Kevin Rudd's kind of match form in leadership votes. But look, one of the things that's happening, I think, behind the scenes here, and this is providing an interesting dynamic with the caucus, is that the Gillard campaign is presenting a package, I think, to caucus members. And it's not just vote for Julia Gillard over Kevin Rudd because she'd be a better leader or whatever. It's actually a kind of a package deal. If you vote for Kevin Rudd, you are voting for a cabinet that doesn't include a bunch of currently senior ministers, people like Wayne Swan, people like Stephen Conroy. I believe Greg Combay is being put in that equation too. I don't know if that's with his consent, but the deal that's being put to caucus members is that a vote for Rudd might be a vote for an empty cabinet table.
Annabel Crabb, you've got a zip as well. We thank you for your contribution this morning.
As they say in the classics.
As they say in the classics. See, that's one thing that hasn't changed about Kevin Rudd, but we'll perhaps get back to that later. Bruce Hawker, if we can bring you back into the conversation. There is no way Kevin Rudd can't run, given all those attacks he made on the government that essentially, paraphrasing, he reckons has lost its way, those swinging attacks on Julia Gillard's electability. He's really got to put up or shut up.
Look, I think it's very, very likely that he's going to be a candidate when this comes up on Monday. I think it's unfortunate it is coming on Monday. I think there could have been a little bit more time before we all rush to judgment. And I say that because he is going to be in the plane for a lot of that time. He does have to consult with colleagues, but he also has to consult with the crossbenchers. This is a new and unprecedented event in Australian political life when it comes to possible internal regime change, and they should be giving a little bit more time for that. I think that was a tactic on the part of the Prime Minister's group to try to make it harder rather than easier for the backbench to give a considered view on Monday.
Bruce Hawker, The Australian is reporting that you've had to step down from your involvement in the Queensland state election campaign. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I've taken leave from the Queensland campaign. It would just be impossible for me to be making any useful contribution to Annabel's campaign while all this is going on. It's well known that I'm a strong supporter of Kevin Rudd's, doing a lot of media around the issue. I think it was the only proper and right thing to do.
Bruce Hawker, just before we go back to Lyndall Curtis, we heard the Prime Minister there put the wood on Kevin Rudd to, if he loses, do as she would do if she lost, go to the back bench and renounce any further ambitions to the Labor leadership. Would he do that?
I think that's a question for him. I would be very loath, Michael, to answer that question on behalf of Kevin Rudd.
Lyndall Curtis, if we bring you back into the chat now, it is what that was raising the stakes quite high, wasn't it? The Prime Minister's push or claim on Kevin Rudd to do the same as she would do. If she lost, she's going to renounce any future claim on the Labor leadership. Do you think Kevin Rudd would do the same if he lost on Monday?
Well, I think there's a bit of concern that if Kevin Rudd either doesn't accept the challenge or loses with enough numbers to make him think that there's another shot at it down the track if the government's poll numbers don't improve, that effectively the threat still exists. Whether Kevin Rudd will do that, I think Bruce is right. Only he himself can answer that. Whether, if given the government's in a minority, there is more pressure on him to stay in Parliament and not cause a by-election at this stage. So his supporters certainly believe that if he loses, then he would go to the backbench. And whether that threat is still there of another challenge, it may be something that in the end rests with those in the leadership of the government to improve their poll standing, to improve, as has been conceded by many people, including ministers, improve the selling of the message and improve their public standing.